This presentation introduces the structure and content of the standard report of the Canadian Association of Learned Journals Readership Analytics Project. It does so by means of a case study of the Canadian Journal of Communication in 2018. Prior to the emergence of ResearchGate and academia.edu, most researchers in the social sciences and humanities and many society-run journals lived in relative ignorance of the amount of attention anyone was paying to their articles. The world was different for outstanding authors who were often cited, and, in certain disciplines, exhaustive and complete citation of previously relevant research was de rigueur. But for many authors and disciplines, evidence of usage was paltry. Now we have, and CALJ-RAP provides, data on usage levels, location of views, preferred formats, HTML, PDF, titles and abstracts only, the various data sources that display journal content, frequency of access, individual article performance, and multi-year data access. But before we examine the data, here's a basic orientation. In 2018, the CJC's website generated 80% of all article views. The secondary aggregator ProQuest added a further 14%, and EBSCO added on a last 6%. This gives a total number of article views of 569,623. Does this mean that someone or some people went to an article nearly 570,000 times and looked at the full text? Well, not really. Each time that happened, it counts as at least 4 article views. But everyone quotes the 570,000 article view as the view number, and this conforms to a publisher library coordination organization called Counter. Added to the 570,000 figure, if views of titles and abstracts are included, total content views for the CJC in 2018 rises to more than 780,000 views. So let's go to the standard report. And here we are. At the top of the report, you'll see here, is the year being viewed. Users can select for any year for which the data have been uploaded. The first table presents the total world views of the content and the sources from which they come. The journal website, EBSCO, and ProQuest. Note the second line provides information on titles and abstracts. Next, in item 2, you see the Canadian views that, for CJC in 2018, were only 16% of all views. Total Canadian content of articles on all sites amounted to just under 104,000. That includes the titles and abstracts. The third item shows views of HTMLs and PDFs. EBSCO does not differentiate between HTML and PDF views. Note also the predominance of HTML views. Item 4 examines geolocation. It's really an overview and gives a visual and quantitative sense of where the views come from. So from Canada we see 111,000, from the United States 209,000, from Brazil 2,700, 2,800, Australia 15,000, China 57,000, Russia 7,300, Germany 87,000. Note also up in the left corner that the number of countries that have viewed the CJC at all, or the people in those countries, is over 200. So a further look at geolocation is in the fifth item. Item 5 compares viewership of the website with all secondary sources. So the deep red is the website, the blue is the secondary sources. It gives a sense of which countries use secondary sources and to what degree. So if you hover, you will see that United States, 166,000 views are of the website, and 43,000 come from secondary sites. Note the blue occurs in the United States, in Canada, in China to a very limited extent, not very much at all in Germany, not much in Sweden, not much in Belgium, but in the UK, a fair amount in Australia. This really tells you that EBSCO and ProQuest are active in English language countries, but not so much in other countries for whom the first language is not English. Item 6 looks at the Canadian provinces, as well as giving a sense of relative usage, and we'll return to that. What's interesting here is that relative preference for HTML and PDFs varies by province, as does relative use of abstracts. Why that's the case may have something to do with provincial, where one lives in what province, but it also may have to do with what is made available by the libraries of those who live in those provinces. Item 7 is a first look at individual articles and their readership from all data sources for 2018. Note the outstanding performance of one article and the more usual levels for well-performing individual articles. The following chart looks at the journal website only rather than all data sources. There are minor differences, but because the website is predominant, they are in fact minor. We will return to a list of articles for which that is not the case later in the presentations. Item 8, as you can see, shows individual article performance over the past 4 years, rather than just the past year. Note the number 1 article from the single year above slides to the number 2 spot and is bumped by quite a dramatic use level of a commentary about the media treatment of Stéphane Dion, 7 years after the article was published. Again, it is followed by an analysis of the data from the website alone. And here you see that unusual level of usage was almost entirely on the website. Item 9 is very important. Item 9 shows the overall performance of the content by its publication year. Note the darkness levels that are an attempt to give you a visual hint of that performance. Elsewhere, we will present a summary table and a chart that reveals more about performance by publication year. Note at the bottom that all the years compiled from 1974 to 1990 is dark and therefore indicates an extensive level of usage, probably more than most people expect. Item 10 looks at the words that were used most frequently in the article titles. And it compares the top 50 articles to all of the articles that have been so far loaded up in CALJ-RAP. The interesting thing about this table is that you can hide one set of data by clicking that on and off, and do so with the other. So you can get a sense of what the frequent words are that occur in titles, and to the extent that they, or the extent to which they differ from between the top 50 articles and all the articles combined. That's it for the standard report. The next presentation reviews the premium report.